The Drought's Whisper. Once upon a time, in a village nestled between rolling hills and a shimmering lake, the whispers of nature began to change. The sun hung high in the sky, glaring down at the earth with an intensity that left the village parched and longing for the cool embrace of rain. Amina, a skilled herbalist known throughout the village for her culinary wonders and healing remedies, felt the weight of the drought not just on her land, but in the hearts of her neighbors. Each morning, Amina would rise before dawn, embracing the light that filtered through her mud-brick home. The vibrant scents of her kitchen, lined with jars of herbs, spices, and dried flowers, normally brought comfort. Yet today, as she dug through her dwindling supply of fresh ingredients, a pang of unease settled in her stomach. Her beloved garden, once bursting with life, was now a patch of sun-baked earth, cracked and barren. She stepped outside, greeted by the piercing silence of the village. The laughter of children that usually filled the air was replaced by worry etched on the faces of her friends and neighbors. She made her way towards the village square, where Mama Zuri, the wise matriarch, often held court. "Good morning, Amina," called out Mama Zuri, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "How goes the fight against the drought?" "Not well, Mama," Amina admitted, lowering her eyes. "My herbs are wilting. It feels as if the earth is losing its spirits." "Ah, but the earth is resilient," Mama Zuri replied with a gentle smile. "Even in hardship, we must remember our roots. They hold the promise of renewal." As their conversation continued, Amina's heart warmed at the elders' optimism. The villagers increasingly relied on Mama Zuri's wisdom, especially during times of drought. As Amina glanced around the square, she noticed Juma, her childhood friend, standing apart from the group, his eyes fixed on the withered crops in the distance. "Juma," Amina called out, approaching him. "Are you well?" He took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping. "I do not know, Amina. My crops are failing. I worry for my family's future," he confessed. His words hung in the air like heavy stones. Amina placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Together, we can find a way. If anyone can help the village flourish, it is us. We must not lose hopes." "Hope, yes," Juma echoed, but his gaze lingered on the dying fields. The despair in his heart mirrored that of the land. Days turned into weeks, with the sun fiercely shining overhead, but Amina refused to surrender to despair. Inspired by Mama Zuri's words, she began to gather the few remaining herbs she had, experimenting with new combinations in her kitchen. She poured her energy into her cooking, hoping to sustain the villagers' spirits even if the earth refused to provide. One evening, as fireflies began their soft dance under the moonlight, Amina invited villagers to her home for an impromptu gathering. "Bring what you have, everyone," she exclaimed, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Let us share our meager meals and draw strength from one another." Curious murmurs filled the air as neighbors responded. As they arrived, the humble fare they brought was meager, a few oatcakes, some boiled cassava, and herbs for seasoning, but each dish was prepared with love. Amina welcomed them into her kitchen, a blend of laughter and melancholy mixing as stories flowed freely. She shared her recent experiments, transforming simple food into a series of artful bites that captured their imaginations. The taste of her dishes ignited a glimmer of joy in the eyes of the villagers, reminding them of the warmth of community, even in their struggles. As the evening wound down, Amina stood before her friends, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We may not have an abundance of food, but we have each other," she declared, feeling a sense of kinship wash over the gathered villagers. "We must nurture our hearts and minds just as we once nurtured the earth. Together, we can overcome this." The villagers cheered, their spirits lifted by Amina's unwavering hope. In the glow of the firelight, they shared laughter and stories late into the night. As the moon rose higher, Amina breathed in the warm night air, her heart buoyed by the shared resolve. The light of unity flickered brightly against the darkness of the drought, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of inspiration. She knew deep within her that their strength lay not just in what the earth could provide, but in their ability to uplift one another. She smiled, resolved to tap into the unconventional, to seek out the hidden potential not only within her but within her entire village. For nature, much like their community, had a way of surprising those who dared to look beyond the surface. Tales of yesterday. Amina awoke to the sound of birds singing, the gentle light of dawn spilling through her window, illuminating her kitchen with warm hues. She savored the moment, indulging in the delicate aroma of freshly ground spices mingling with the scent of last night's fire. Today held promise, she could feel it in her bones. Even with the looming dread of drought still hovering, Amina resolved to seek inspiration from the stories of the past. After a hurried breakfast, she decided to visit Mama Zuri, whose vast collection of tales from centuries gone by had the power to elevate spirits and nourish the soul. As she walked through the village, Amina was greeted by familiar faces, each with their own silent sorrow evident in their eyes. Despite their hardships, she felt a spring in her step, eager to share her ideas with Mama Zuri. Mama Zuri's shop was a comforting haven, filled with the colors of vibrant fabrics and beautifully woven baskets. She was rearranging cloths when Amina entered, her silver hair shining like the moon. The sage woman turned, a wide grin illuminating her face. "Amina, my dear, what brings you here today?" Mama Zuri inquired, her voice like honey, warm and soothing. "I seek the wisdom of your tales, Mama. I believe they can inspire us to find solutions in these trying times," Amina replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. Mama Zuri nodded knowingly, ushering Amina inside. They settled on a pair of intricately painted stools, surrounded by bolts of fabric proudly hanging from the rafters. "Long ago," began Mama Zuri, her voice soft yet filled with authority, "we faced a great famine in this very village, when the rains failed for an entire season. Our elders, much like we are now, worried for our survival." Amina leaned forward, captivated. She had always revered the elders' ability to weave narratives that offered hope. "What did they do?" she prompted. Mama Zuri's eyes twinkled as she recalled the story. They convened under the baobab tree and shared their prized recipes, innovating with whatever little they had left. They created dishes using wild plants and the protein from small fish caught from the lake. Amina nodded, imagining the vibrant gathering around the tree, laughter mingling with the whispers of hope. "And did it work?" she asked, gripping her knees tightly. "Perhaps not right away. At first, they struggled, but they learned to adapt. Every meal became a communal feast where stories were shared as freely as food. Over time, strength grew in those stories. They became reminders of resilience amidst adversity. Eventually, the rains came, and their unity prepared them for abundance once more." Amina sat in thought, absorbing the narrative. "Perhaps we, too, can draw from our heritage," she mused. "We could hold a gathering to share not just food, but stories from our pasts, turning our memories into something that could nourish us today." Mama Zuri smiled broadly, her expression filled with pride. "Yes, child. You possess the spark. Invite the villagers, encourage them to share their tales alongside their dishes. You never know what might rise from this." As the two women exchanged ideas, Amina's heart quickened with excitement. She pictured the villagers, laughter and stories filling the air, even as their stomachs remained empty. It could be a feast of connection and creativity, a celebration of their bonds, much like Mama Zuri had described. When it came time to leave, Amina felt a buoyancy in her spirit that she hadn't known for days. "Thank you, Mama Zuri. Your words have revived me," she said, embracing the elder tightly. "Remember, my child, the past is never truly gone if we keep its stories alive," Mama Zuri replied, her voice gentle yet firm. "You are not alone in this journey." With a heart full of hope, Amina set off to gather her friends. She visited the marketplace, calling out for villagers to come together. Her enthusiasm was infectious. They began to mend their spirits. "Tonight, let us feast," Amina urged. "Bring whatever you can find, and more importantly, bring a tale of joy, of sorrow, of our history. Allow us to nourish one another." Soon news spread through the village, transcending borders of resentment and despair. Amina felt the energy shift around her, the stories of yesteryears percolating in the whispers of hope. From the seasoned farmers to the little children who still played by the lake, everyone embraced the idea. As twilight enveloped the village, Amina prepared her kitchen with vigor, slicing vegetables and experimenting with the few herbs she could salvage. She felt invigorated, her heart humming alongside the vibrant anticipation mounting in the air. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, villagers began to arrive one by one, each carrying a plate adorned with their offerings, a patchwork of food interwoven with tales of resilience. With each story shared, Amina felt a flicker ignite in her chest, a flame that formed bridges of connection. She envisioned a gathering that could sustain them not just through the drought, but through the many challenges that life would toss their way. Tonight would be different. Stories would rise like fresh bread in the oven, comforting the heart and nourishing the soul. Their pasts entwined with the present would remind them that together, they could embrace the challenges ahead. And with that, the village began to speak again, as the tales of yesterday whispered persistence into the lives of tomorrow. Seeds of despair. The sun hung heavily in the sky, casting a relentless heat over the village as Juma stared at the ground that had once flourished with life. His heart felt like a stone sinking into the dry earth, while his hands, calloused and weary, clutched his hoe with a sense of defeat. It seemed like only yesterday that he had sowed seeds of hope, yet today, all he could see were the remnants of his efforts scattered amidst patches of dirt. The once vibrant fields where corn and millet had danced in the wind now lay stifled, reduced to a dull, sun-baked panorama of lifelessness. Juma's heart ached every time he surveyed the land that had been his family's pride, the same land that had fed his children, provided for their needs, and sustained generations before him. Why must it be this way? He wondered aloud, his voice cracking with despair as though the earth would answer him. Is it not enough to work tirelessly from dawn to dusk? Why must the rains forsake us? With each deep breath, he felt his hope slowly slip away. He leaned against the fence that bordered his land, staring into the distance, where villagers went about their daily routines. He could hear the laughter of children playing near the lake, a stark contrast to the grief weighing down his spirit. Juma wished he could join them, but his thoughts were too heavy to bear. As he turned to leave the field, he spotted Faraji, a fellow farmer, trudging along the path with shoulders drooped, a look of concern etched across his sunken features. They exchanged nods, acknowledging the weight they both carried in their hearts, without needing words. Juma, Faraji called, stopping beside him. I've heard of Amina's gathering tonight. Maybe it's time we stopped working against the waning light and sought the brightness of togetherness instead. That may be true, my friend, Juma replied, forcing a smile. But can laughter and stories fill our bellies once the sun sets and we are still empty? Perhaps they can fill something deeper. When we come together as one, we strengthen our spirits, Faraji suggested, his eyes sparkling with a glimmer of hope. You must try. Juma reluctantly nodded, though skepticism lingered in his heart. Could tales and camaraderie really ease the burdens they shouldered? With the sun casting long shadows around them, he finally agreed, all right. I will join you. As dusk approached, the air began to cool, and the enchantment of evening settled gently over the village. Juma washed himself with care, his fingers running through the water as he contemplated the arrival of more guests. He avoided looking at his reflection, fearful it might reveal the torrent of gloom that had become his companion. When he arrived at Amina's home, the scene before him was uplifting. The faint glow of lanterns adorned the path leading to her kitchen, and laughter spiraled through the air in bright musical tones. Villagers mingled beside the bubbling pots, sharing smiling exchanges and bantering playfully, as they carried platters filled with colorful dishes of the little they had gathered. Inside, scents intertwined, fragrances that stirred memories of better times, the comforting aroma of spiced dishes, the sweetness of freshly baked bread. Juma's heart began to soften as he stepped inside, greeted by Amina's bright smile. Her vibrant energy seemed to infect every corner of the room. Juma, I'm glad you could make it, she exclaimed, wrapping an arm around him. You brought light to our gatherings. Barely, Juma replied with a half-smile, still wrestling with the remnants of his despair. But thank you for holding this evening. It feels different. He noticed the small group forming around the central table, eager faces waiting their turn to share their stories and meals. Juma took a seat, watching as Amina welcomed each person, encouraging them to share not just food, but tales from their past. As the evening unfolded, each story seemed to unfurl a tapestry of resilience. Festive laughter intertwined with heartfelt tears as memories flowed freely. A tale of loss transformed into a lesson in perseverance. A story of the elders dealing with hardship blossomed into hope for the future. Each morsel of food seemed to link them further, binding their spirits. Amina then stood, her energy a beacon amid the candlelight. For tonight, let us dare to dream and share our challenges. But let us also revel in the love that binds us together. Together, we can weather any storm. Juma listened, surprised by the strength that filled Amina's words. Each village story became a seed sown in his heart, igniting a flicker of hope within. Perhaps this gathering would fertilize growth where once there was only despair. As laughter erupted over a particularly animated story, Juma found himself smiling, his burdens a little lighter, the heaviness in his heart inching away. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of connection envelop him like a protective blanket. Time flowed like the lake's gentle current. The joy of shared stories coursed through the room, like soft rain nurturing thirsty ground. Juma began to see the potential for resurgence, the spark of life that could flicker anew, just as his fellow villagers transformed their struggles into lessons of strength. For the first time in weeks, Juma understood that even in the darkest of times, when seeds of despair threatened to overshadow his spirit, perhaps new stories could blossom, stories seeded in hope, courage, and unyielding love. He realized then that before they could nurture their land, they must first sow these seeds deep within their hearts. The magic of imagination. The morning light danced through the open window of Amina's kitchen, filling the room with warmth. The remnants of last night's gathering still lingered in the air. Through laughter and stories, they had embraced the possibility of hope, nourishing one another in body and spirit. But as the sun rose higher, the shadows of the drought settled back around her, a stark reminder of the challenges still ahead. Amina stood at her wooden table, surrounded by jars filled with vibrant herbs, spices, and dried flowers. Each jar was a treasure, containing memories of past harvests and the vibrant life of the soil. Yet, in the face of adversity, she wondered how to conjure new creations from the dwindling resources available to her. Her heart stirred with a desire to innovate. A flicker of inspiration danced in her mind. Resolved to find a way to create something extraordinary out of the ingredients she had left, Amina let her imagination soar. She recalled Mama Zuri's tales of creativity amidst adversity, stories that had once encouraged her grandmother to craft magnificent feasts even in challenging times. With determination, Amina began to experiment, her fingers deftly moving among the jars. The vibrant green of the basil, the earthy tones of cumin, and the sweet warmth of cinnamon sparked an idea in her heart. Why not combine these flavors in a way no one had envisioned? Thoughts raced through her mind like the rushing river. Mixing spices could bring forth new sensations, unearthing the very essence of their community. She envisioned a dish that could capture not just hunger, but camaraderie and resilience, a meal that could weave their stories together like the strands of a beautiful tapestry. As the hours passed, Amina worked with passion. She crafted combinations that seemed odd at first but began to come alive in fragrant bursts. With each stirring of the pot, she infused the air with warmth and possibility, breathing life into her ideas. The kernels of doubt faded as she imagined the joy on the villagers' faces when they tasted her creations. Suddenly, she found herself returning to the evening stories, the laughter and warmth that had filled the room. What if she could create a dish that embodied those feelings? A meal that would awaken the spirit of unity, a reminder that they could overcome anything as long as they stood together. Just then, a soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Juma, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Amina," he began, hesitating for a moment, "I thought I heard laughter coming from your kitchen. Are you cooking something special?" She laughed, her spirits buoyed by his presence. "Come in, Juma. You're just in time to witness a little magic in the makings." Intrigued, Juma stepped inside, his skepticism softening as Amina shared her vision. She explained the concept of blending ingredients, creating a meal that would be a feast for the senses. "Can we take the time to explore these uncharted territories?" he questioned, a glimmer of excitement kindling within him. It could mean so much to the village, showing that we can adapt and find joy in the little things. Amina looked at him, her eyes shining with inspiration. "Exactly. Let's invite others to try this together. I want to make something that celebrates our unity, reflects our resilience. A dish that speaks our language." With renewed fervor, the two of them delved into the process of crafting their new dish. They labeled each combination with laughter and deliberation, experimenting with flavors, adjusting measurements, and sometimes failing spectacularly. But each misstep only fueled their determination, drawing them closer together as they navigated the challenges of creation. Hours passed, and as the aromas transformed, hope began to form in Juma's heart. "Look at what we've created," he marveled, overwhelmed by the colorful spread of vibrant herbs, spices, and grains. Each dish before them reflected not just their labor, but their dreams. Amina closed her eyes, imagining the village gathered around the communal table, each person sharing their culinary creations. She wanted to evoke a sense of home, a comfort that reigned in their hearts. "Perhaps we can even hold a little feast," she proposed. "A day where everyone brings their own dish, catching the spirit of this place." "Absolutely. I can't wait to see their faces," Juma replied, energized by the idea. The thought of sharing their imaginative feast excited him. Suddenly, the bond between them strengthened as they envisioned the joy they could bring to each other's lives. It was then that Amina realized how far imagination could take them, transforming not just their ingredients but also their hearts. Creativity was a resource they could tap into even during the harshest drought, a wellspring of resilience that could illuminate their darkest days. With the day slowly turning to dusk, Amina felt a renewed sense of purpose. The dishes sprawled before them, a vibrant reflection of their hopes and dreams. She marveled at the power of imagination, the idea that creativity could lead to renewal in their community, a celebration of unity. As twilight descended and stars began to twinkle overhead, Amina and Juma stood side by side, ready to share the fruits of their labor with the village. The promise of laughter and connection filled the air as they embarked on a journey rooted in love, creativity, and hope, determined to nourish not only their bodies but also their spirits, one imaginative dish at a time. Unconventional ingredients. The following day dawned bright and clear, filling Amina's heart with hope. She awoke early, energized by the excitement of last night's gathering and the prospect of bringing her imaginative culinary creations to life. Today, she would gather the necessary ingredients needed for her dynamic feast, announcing to the village that creativity starts from within. As she tidied her kitchen, Amina's mind raced with ideas. She boldly envisioned a dish rich in flavor and texture, one that encapsulated the spirit of the village. Her imagination guided her hand as she reached for her prized herbs and spices. Yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, a thought lingered. What could she use that would truly symbolize their resilience? The idea shocked her, but an unexpected spark ignited within. With a swift breath, her heart raced. She grabbed her notebook, scribbling the title, "Unconventional Ingredients." Focusing her thoughts, Amina remembered snippets of conversations from Mama Zuri. The elder had shared stories of her youth when scarcity compelled families to use every part of the plant, even things that no one would typically consider. Vegetable scraps became broth, and even wildflowers found their way into desserts. Could she push the boundaries of convention herself? Amina pondered as she made her way through the village, catching sight of garden remnants and discarded produce. With determination, she approached the local market, her purpose crystal clear. She needed not only herbs and spices but also the often overlooked treasures hiding within their neglected corners. Gathering her courage, Amina began visiting neighbors, asking them to share any vegetable scraps or overlooked produce lurking in their kitchens. Nida, the village baker, raised an eyebrow. "Amina, what do you need these for?" "They're practically trash," she remarked, chuckling lightly. "Not trash," Amina insisted, animated by her newfound vision. "They are treasures waiting to be transformed." "I'll take your word for it," Nida said, handing her a wrinkled beet that had seen better days and some wilted greens. "But if this backfires?" "It won't. I promise," Amina replied. As she continued her journey through the village, collecting items no one else wanted, she came across Juma tending to his remaining crops. His face lit up as he saw her approach, still carrying remnants of their evening together. "Amina, what brings you here?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'm seeking ingredients for the feast," she exclaimed, holding up her gathered treasures. "These are our unconventional ingredients. Every piece has potential. Will you help me?" Juma stared at the collected scraps, skepticism flickering on his face. "Those? I mean, how do you plan to use, well, what you have?" "Let me show you," she laughed, tugging him with her towards her kitchen. "Join me, and let's create something special." Once inside, Amina spread the array of unconventional ingredients, wilted greens, oddly shaped root vegetables, and overripe fruits, across the table. "It may not look like much now," she said as she pointed to the assortment, "but each item carries a story, a life lived." "Are you sure?" Juma questioned once more, his brow raised. Amina nodded with a fiery determination. "Together, we will discover their hidden potentials." They spent the afternoon chopping, slicing, and mixing, each new creation revealing surprising flavors. Amina took the overripe fruits, blending them into a tangy sauce that awakened their palates. The beet greens were sautéed lightly, paired with the last of her spices, a recipe born out of necessity and love. "Now for the grand finale," Amina said, her eyes gleaming as she contemplated the dish's composition. "We will use that fine aroma to create a warm broth, marrying the essence of everything in a single pot." Juma watched in amazement as Amina transformed what once seemed formless into a harmonious bounty. Together, they stirred the pot, a medley of unconventional flavors merging, memories of laughter and stories swirling into a powerful concoction of hope. As twilight approached, the rich, savory aroma wafted through the open door, beckoning villagers to approach. Some paused to catch a whiff, their expressions shifting from skepticism to curiosity. The scent created an inviting atmosphere around Amina's kitchen. Word spread quickly, and soon, curious villagers began to gather, tempting them with a taste of Amina's creations. Smiles blossomed on their faces, the initial doubt eclipsed by the undeniable allure of community and togetherness. "Is this?" a villager began, eyes widened in realization. "Yes. It's the bounty of our gardens transformed," Amina replied proudly. "This dish reflects our perseverance and care, showing that even unassuming ingredients can become something beautiful if we allow our imagination to guide us." Juma shared Amina's joy, taking the first spoonful. Eyes lighting up with surprise, he laughed. "I didn't think it would taste this good. It's incredible." As villagers began to sample the dish, newfound excitement surged through their ranks. Amina knew she had embarked on an incredible journey. Together with Juma, they were magically transforming scraps into a meal worthy of celebration. That evening, the village brimmed with life as stories emerged and laughter filled the air. They tasted the power of resilience, realizing that even in times of despair, there was beauty to be found, unconventional, unexpected, but undeniably profound. Amina couldn't help but smile at what they'd achieved. Perhaps this was just the beginning of a culinary adventure that could bring sustenance and joy back into their lives. A taste of hope. As dawn broke over the village, golden rays filtered through Amina's window, illuminating the remnants of last night's feast. The echoes of laughter and shared stories still lingered, a warm haze enveloping her in a cocoon of hope. Today, she felt especially inspired to build upon the momentum they had created together. Gathering her thoughts, Amina stood. She dreamt of crafting a new dish that would encapsulate the spirit of unity and resilience the villagers had showcased. They had discovered joy amid adversity from the unconventional ingredients, and she yearned to share this newfound hope with everyone. Walking into her small kitchen, she found the pot they had created together still stained with colors of the previous night's meal. The remnants had morphed into a beautiful melange, a testament to their creativity and determination despite the drought. Amina couldn't help but smile at the sight as she swept away her initial doubts about last night's efforts. Today would be different. A banquet of sorts awaited, a communal celebration of courage woven into every dish, feeding not just the body but the spirit. With renewed energy, Amina pulled out her notebook and began drafting ideas, her heart racing with excitement for what was to come. By mid-morning, she made her way to the village square, the pulse of the community beating around her. As she arrived, villagers were already setting up stalls filled with colorful fabrics, handmade crafts, and the remnants of their gardens. She could see Juma among the crowd, chatting with Mama Zuri and laughing, an encouraging scene that brought warmth to her heart. "Amina," he called as she approached, his arms open wide. "Look at all these people. They are all eager to lend a hand today." "Yes," Amina replied, bursting with enthusiasm. "I have a plan. We will create a dish together that embodies our spirit, a taste of hope. His eyes brightened at her words, and she could see the flicker of inspiration mirrored in his expression. How will we do this, Amina? Everyone will bring what they can, vegetables, herbs, whatever they have left. We will invite everyone to share in this creation, transforming our bounty into something extraordinary. As the villagers began to gather, Amina called out with excitement, "Listen up, everyone. Today, we will create a special dish, drawing from the heart of our community. Bring what you can from your gardens, and together, we'll create a feast that embodies our resilience." Curiosity rose around her, and excitement rippled through the crowd as familiar faces stepped forward. Nida carried a basket filled with dried fruits, while others came with bundles of leafy greens, heirloom vegetables, and fragrant spices. Amina didn't merely see ingredients, she witnessed dreams, stories, and lives intertwining. Throughout the afternoon, the village square transformed into a bustling kitchen. Laughter filled the air as villagers worked side by side, sharing tales, teaching one another old recipes forgotten in their families, their voices rising in joyous harmony. Juma and Amina navigated the crowd, hands joined as they stirred simmering pots and tossed fresh ingredients into colorful bowls. With energy coursing through each person, Amina felt the magic in the air. No longer did she feel isolated in her struggle. Instead, her heart swelled witnessing the strength woven into the collective effort. Each dish coming together symbolized a glimmer of hope that sparkled beneath the surface of despair. "Look at this!" Nida exclaimed, proudly presenting her signature bread. "I've added the wild herbs from your garden, Amina. It smells magnificent." Amina beamed, warmth flooding her spirit. She announced to the crowd, "Today we are not only sharing food, we are sharing hope." Finally, they prepared the main dish, a vibrant pot filled with whatever they could imagine. Every villager hesitated, then poured in their contributions, a cacophony of flavors swirling together, united in purpose. The mixture began to bubble and hiss with promise, a fragrant promise that seemed to drive away the worries that had settled darkly over the village. As the sun began to sink, casting a golden hue over the village, Amina called everyone together, her heart racing. "Gather round. We're about to taste hope, nourished by our shared efforts." The villagers formed a circle, eyes bright with anticipation. Amina ladled the contents of the pot into bowls, her hands shaking with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. With the first taste, the crowd fell silent, savoring the complexity of flavors. The blends of sweet and savory danced across their taste buds, igniting smiles across faces that had often known despair. "I've never tasted anything like this," laughed Juma, coming alive in the flavor, and the joy in his voice rang like bells through the twilight. "It has everything we've shared, all of our hopes in one bite." One by one, villagers shared words of gratitude, and their laughter painted the air like brushstrokes on a canvas. Each bite became a bridge, reinforcing their connections and drawing them closer together. Amina stood back, watching the scene unfold. The essence of hope, nourished by unity and the daring spirit of innovation, instilled fresh vigor into their lives. It dawned on her that resilience wasn't merely about surviving life's challenges, it was about thriving through them, fueled by the bonds they nurtured. As twilight slipped into night, the glow of lanterns illuminated the village square, creating an enchanted scene filled with warmth and possibility. Together, they created more than just a meal. They had woven a tapestry of love and hope, turning adversity into a feast that echoed through their hearts. Tonight, they were nourished, not merely by what they consumed but by the connections they reignited, forever embracing the magic of community. Community united. The morning after the feast, a feeling of buoyancy filled the air, as if the village itself had been infused with fresh vitality. Amina awoke to laughter filtering through her window, a sound she hadn't realized how much she had missed. She stretched, her heart buoyed by the memories of the previous night's success. Delicious food shared, old friendships rekindled, and new connections formed. Stepping outside, she was greeted by the sight of children playing joyfully in the dirt, their laughter contagious, weaving its way through the village like a warm embrace. Amina smiled, her spirit uplifted by the scene around her. The community was alive again, vibrant and thriving despite the lingering threat of drought. Word of their successful feast had spread quickly, its echoes reverberating throughout the village. Conversations sparkled like sunlight on water as neighbors gathered in small clusters, discussing not just food, but plans and dreams that had lain dormant for too long. Amina glanced toward the center of the village, where an impromptu meeting was taking shape. Villagers had assembled, their expressions filled with determination, as Mama Zuri stood at the forefront, an anchor of wisdom among them. "Today is a new dawn," Mama Zuri proclaimed, raising her arms to gather everyone's attention. "In the light of last night's joy, we must recognize our power to change our circumstances. Together, we are stronger than any drought." As the villagers cheered, Amina felt the pulse of unity in the air, resonating like a heartbeat. She approached Mama Zuri, drawing inspiration from her words. "What if we formalized our gathering into a regular community meeting?" Amina suggested. "We can come together to share resources, ideas, and celebrations." "An excellent proposal, Amina," Mama Zuri replied, her eyes sparkling. "We need a system that allows our voices to be heard, plans made, and actions taken." Juma joined their side, glancing excitedly at the other villagers. "Imagine meeting often, pooling our talents. We can exchange food, share knowledge, and support each other's dreams collaboratively." Encouraged by the enthusiasm mounting around them, Amina divided the villagers into groups. Each group took on a different aspect of community support: agriculture, creative arts, education, and communal cooking, a structure that would usher in collaboration. "You can start by sharing skills," Amina declared. "We could form gardening teams and teach each other sustainable practices. We can craft workshops for cooking, harvesting, and preserving." The air buzzed with ideas as plans began forming. Ladies began to share trades and secrets passed from mother to daughter, while men discussed ways to create irrigation systems utilizing the lake's resources to keep the soil nourished. "Let's not forget our little ones," Mama Zuri interjected. "We must teach them the importance of unity, the value in sharing their gifts. Perhaps we can create storytelling sessions for the children intertwined with culture and arts." "Stories," Juma echoed, his face lighting up. "We can have weekly evenings dedicated to tales, sharing history through dance and music." As the day unfolded, energy soared. Village members eagerly volunteered for various roles. Plans were made for a community garden, bright with the promise of vegetables that could flourish, feeding both families and souls. A teaching kitchen was envisioned, a vibrant space where skills would be shared and meals would be made, as laughter danced through the air. As twilight descended, a palpable connection filled the space, hearts inspired by the miracles that collaboration could bring. Villagers exchanged excited whispers, spreading hope like seeds across the soil, basking in the light of unity. Amina stepped back to admire the transformations taking place around her. The intimacy woven through their shared journey made her heart swell with gratitude. Each person brought their unique light, creating a luminous tapestry of community spirit that stood resilient against any hardship they faced. As they began discussing their first community project, a shared vegetable garden, each villager contributed ideas for flowers, fruits, and vegetables that could decorate their shared land. Amina envisioned sunlight breaking through pools of colorful produce, mothers teaching their children to plant seeds while telling stories, and neighbors gathering to nurture the land together. "Let us select a day this week to begin," Amina urged, excitement bubbling within her. Mama Zuri clasped her hands together, her eyes twinkling with joy. "Let this garden symbolize our commitment to one another and the strength we possess when united. May it nourish both body and soul." That evening, they departed with plans laid, energy soaring, and hope ignited. Amina couldn't shake the feeling that this was the dawn of something powerful. For the first time in a long while, the village felt deeply interconnected, no longer separate entities existing in isolation, but a collective determined to embrace the richness of life together. Each heart beat as one, resonating with a promise that their unity could overcome any challenge. In the days that followed, Amina watched as the village transformed. They turned dreams into tangible projects, sowing seeds of hope in both the garden and in their spirits. Each afternoon became a canvas of joy, laughter, and hard work, planting the foundations of resilience and rebirth. A newfound camaraderie blossomed, fortifying their community against the challenges that lay ahead. The village was one step closer to healing, and Amina felt a sense of elation. She had sparked a flame that illuminated the path forward, weaving their lives together in a glorious tapestry of hope, love, and unity. It was a beautiful beginning, one that foreshadowed a future filled with possibilities. The gathering storm. Days turned to weeks, and the village flourished with newfound energy. The community garden blossomed into a vibrant tapestry of greens, dotted with colorful blooms. Laughter and laughter volume echoed through the air as families worked side by side, solidifying bonds that had once weakened in the face of adversity. Amina watched the transformation with awe, her heart swelling with pride as she witnessed the resilience of her people. However, beneath the surface of enthusiasm, a sense of unease began to creep in. Each day, the sun rose higher in the sky, each beam more blistering than the last. The drought had taken its toll, and even the nurturing spirit of the community couldn't deny the creeping tension in the air. The once lush expanse of the countryside began to feel more barren, as dry winds whispered warnings in their ears. The villagers gathered one evening in Amina's kitchen, breathing in the fragrant spices of the simmering stew. They settled around the table, exchanging notes of success. The harvest was meager but promising. Their hearts remained buoyed by the freshness of hope as they relished the fruits of their labor. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mama Zuri shared stories of storms that had once ravaged their lands. "We have weathered many tempests," she began, her voice steady yet haunting. "Nature tests us, not to break our spirit, but to teach us how to bend and grow." Amina nodded, drawing strength from Mama Zuri's wisdom. "We shall also prepare as best we can. We've built a safety net among ourselves, something that can sustain us through dark times. Whatever comes, we stand together." Just then, a hush fell over the gathered group. Juma stepped forward, a worried expression etched on his face. "I've heard news from the neighboring village," he said slowly. "The drought has worsened, and they are bracing for a storm, one that could bring destruction. It may come our way as well." A heartbeat of silence met him, the weight of his words sinking in. Whispers of concern trickled around the table. There was a tangible shift as they processed the seriousness of Juma's warning. Amina knew this was a pivotal moment, and she felt the atmosphere shift in her chest. "No," protested Nida, her voice shaking slightly. "We've worked so hard. We can't let a storm take everything away." Mama Zuri frowned, her wisdom tempered by a knowing glance. "Sometimes, my dear, the storms do not come to destroy but to purify. We must prepare our hearts and our homes for what lies ahead. Unite us in purpose, not fear." As the evening progressed, they shouted their fears and frustrations together, but Amina urged them to rally around the spirit of proactive preparation. "Let us take stock of our supplies. We should secure the garden, store food, and ensure that our homes are ready for whatever comes our way," she declared, excitement rising through her voice. The villagers nodded, re-energized by purpose. They began collecting materials to reinforce their homes, gathering the last of their crops and preserving food in various forms. As they worked tirelessly, ominous clouds began to roll in from the east, thick and heavy like the weight of their worries looming overhead. The once blue skies darkened, casting shadows across the vibrant garden they had lovingly cultivated. A distant rumble of thunder vibrated in the air, sending shivers down Amina's spine. Days passed, and the storm loomed closer. Dark clouds amassed like an army on the horizon, threatening to crush their hopes. Despite the heavy atmosphere, the villagers stayed resolute, standing strong against the gathering darkness. They shared tasks as laughter burst forth amid cries of concern. Finally, one fateful evening, the first drops of rain began to hit the ground, plummeting from the sky like silver beads. But this was not gentle rain. It tore through the land, tumbling with wild ferocity. Wind howled, shaking the trees, rattling the roofs. The storm had arrived with a vengeance. Initial excitement turned to panic as the wind intensified. Villagers scrambled to fortify their homes, darting amid the torrential downpour. Amina led the charge, organizing groups to ensure that everyone had a safe place to take shelter. Juma, his face grim, helped secure the garden against the onslaught. "We need to protect our crops. They've become a symbol of our unity," he shouted, reinforcing barriers with whatever they could find amid the chaos. The storm raged on, furious sheets of rain slashing against the ground, drowning out the sound of their voices. Walls of water cascaded down rooftops, and debris surged through the streets. They were fighting an overwhelming force, the storm transforming familiar paths into wild torrents of chaos. In the throes of the tempest, with hearts pounding and muscles aching, Amina looked at the faces of her fellow villagers, feeling the panic rising. "Stay together," she urged, her voice rising above the roar. "We can weather this storm, together." In a moment of strength, she reached out and clasped Juma's hand tightly, channeling their shared resolve to one another. "Whatever happens, we are still our community, a family united in strength." Soon, the winds shifted to a faint whisper, leaving only the relentless sound of heavy rain. As exhaustion weighed heavily upon them, they retreated to the village center, seeking refuge and solace in their unity. A shared warmth enveloped them, igniting the deepest truth. Through storm or drought, they remained each other's anchors. As they settled together, Amina reflected on the lessons learned. Their love had grown stronger, an unbreakable bond formed in the tempest. The storm was fierce, but they were fiercer, each wave of rain that fell becoming not just droplets, but promises of resilience. The gathering storm would not erase their achievements, only test them. Together in that circle, they realized they would rise, no matter the challenges ahead. As long as they held hands and maintained hope, they would emerge from this storm as they had emerged from each previous challenge, stronger together. With hearts ablaze and spirits entwined, they prepared to face whatever awaited them, ready to embrace the dawn that would follow this tempest. Rebuilding together. As dawn broke over the village, a cascade of light unveiled the path ahead. The storm had come and gone, leaving behind a landscape of destruction that stretched across the once thriving fields. Amina stepped out of her home, absorbing the aftermath of nature's fury. The garden where laughter had once flourished now lay battered, tiles from rooftops scattered across the ground, and trees uprooted like forgotten toys. Yet amidst the ruin, an overwhelming sense of camaraderie began to stir. Villagers emerged from their shelters, their faces etched with exhaustion but also with resolution. It was time to rebuild. Amina felt hope flickering in her chest. The strength of their community had been forged in adversity, and together they would reclaim their home. "Gather round," Amina called out, standing atop a small mound that had yet to lose its vibrant hue. A small crowd began to form, drawn together by her unwavering spirit. "We faced the storm, and now we rise as one." As the words left her lips, Juma moved to her side, his face weary but determined. "We know the way forward," he added, glancing around at the villagers. "We must assess the damage and focus on what needs to be done. Each hand here can contribute to healing our village." Inspired, Amina nodded. "Let's divide into teams. One group can secure the homes, while another focuses on salvaging what we can from the gardens. We can work together to create a temporary shelter for food storage and community. Our unity will guide the way." The villagers exchanged glances of understanding, heads nodding in agreement. They knew what needed to be done, and despite the heaviness weighing on their hearts, seeds of determination took root within them. As the teams dispersed, Amina led one toward the garden, a haven that had become a battlefield overnight. With each step, she felt a pang of sorrow for the vibrant blooms they had cultivated. Rows of vegetables were half buried beneath mud, and vibrant blossoms had been torn from their roots. But alongside that sorrow, hope blossomed too. Life persisted. Some plants defied the storm, standing tall amidst the wreckage. "Look!" Juma pointed to a patch of wildflowers still in bloom. "They survived." Amina beamed at the sight, her heart swelling with resolve. If these flowers can endure, so can we. Together, the team set to work, gathering what they could salvage. As they dug through the remnants, they uncovered more than just plants. They uncovered stories of their hard work, cooperation, and love for their land. Each weed pulled was not just a piece of debris but a small victory in their rebuilding efforts. During those hours, the air hummed with the sounds of laughter and determination. Amina moved beside Juma, shoulders brushing as they bent to work. "What do you think the future holds for our village?" she asked, her fingers clawing through the rich earth. "Rebirth," Juma replied simply. "We've faced storms before, and always come back stronger. Only this time, We won't just rebuild what was. We'll create something even better. With time slipping by, they designed a plan for recovery. As the sun cast golden rays over the remnants of the garden, they created plans for a new garden layout, including wider paths for easier access during storms and better irrigation to ensure their crops had water even during dry seasons. Their spirits lifted, more villagers joined in the efforts as others completed their tasks. Children laughed while gathering sticks and leaves, dutifully helping their parents, learning in the very essence of resilience. At midday, a sense of smell wafted through the air as Mama Zuri prepared a simple meal using whatever scraps remained in her kitchen. Naturally, the children scattered around her, awaiting the opportunity to share in the nourishment. As they sat down on the grass to eat, Amina surveyed the scene with satisfaction. Her heart swelled as she watched each family join in communion, sharing food and stories, creating warmth and necessity out of what remained. It was a reminder that even in times of adversity, the act of sharing nourished not just the body but the soul. "You know, Amina," Mama Zuri remarked while stirring the pot, "when life throws storms our way, we must remember that those storms can clear the way for new growth. We are given opportunities to simplify our lives, to dig deeper and seek the truth of our existence." Amina nodded, reflecting on Mama Zuri's profound words. "And every challenge brings us closer together, doesn't it? We rise as a community, stronger and smarter." Even as fatigue settled in their bones, the determination of the villagers prevailed. They spent the evening reinforcing their homes, working into the night, and creating a sense of shared purpose that eclipsed the remnants of despair. Together, they laughed, shared stories of resilience, and even teared up at the remembrance of what had been lost. Something remarkable had begun to take shape, a foundation not rooted solely in isolation, but instead growing from a collective dream of rebirth. They began seeing the power of community, the strength found in unity forged through hardship. By nightfall, they gathered once more, making a plan for the days ahead and vowing to set regular check-ins to continue supporting one another. Plans coalesced, forming a vision that was brighter than the fierce storm that had tried to tear them apart. Amina looked out over the gathering of resolute faces, the glow of lantern light dancing across their features. The unity forged in the moments of greatest challenge illuminated the path ahead, not only toward rebuild their village but toward creating a haven for hope and growth. Together, Amina declared, her voice ringing in the night, "We will rise from this storm, stronger than before. Let us embrace what has been lost, but also what lies ahead." With hearts full and spirits entwined, they stood hand in hand, ready to embrace the returning vibrance of life as they embarked on the journey of rebuilding together. The Festival of Wishes. The village transformed overnight, rebuilding efforts interwoven with bursts of creativity and resilience. Days of labor had left them exhausted, yet there was an undeniable excitement in the air as the community prepared for their first celebration post-storm, the Festival of Wishes. Amina woke early that day, golden light streaming through her window, illuminating the remnants of decorations she and the villagers had crafted. Vibrant banners made from colorful fabric fluttered gently in the breeze as she stepped outside and took a deep breath. The scents of earth, fresh herbs, and blooming flowers mingled together, igniting a spark of joy within her. The village square was a flurry of activity. Families gathered, laughter and chatter creating a symphony of hope as they set up booths filled with homemade crafts, delicious traditional dishes, and brightly colored goods. Amina could see children racing around, their faces painted with joy, their laughter infectious. Today, they would honor the resilience they had shown while also casting forward their hopes and dreams. As the sun rose higher in the sky, she adjusted the colorful lanyard of her dress, inspired by the happiness surrounding her. She was relieved at how much brighter everything seemed compared to the desolation just weeks earlier. "Are you ready for the festival, Amina?" Juma called as he approached, a smile broadening across his face. "Absolutely. I can't believe we've come this far," Amina replied, her excitement bubbling over. "Have you thought about your own wish?" he asked, a teasing note creeping into his voice. "You know, no wish is too big or small to Dave." "Of course. I want us to grow as a community," she replied, wrapping her hands around her heart. "To cultivate our dreams and nurture each other just as we have done during our hardest times." Juma nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's a good one. I true heart wish for more rain, that the earth breathes again. As the hours slipped by, villagers poured into the square, dressed in their vibrant attire, carrying smiles wide enough to light the sky. Colorful tables adorned with an abundance of food, handcrafted mementos, and flowers transformed the once barren ground into a tapestry of life and creativity. Mama Zuri presided over the festivities, offering guidance as villagers placed their wishes on small, hand-painted stones. They prepared to toss them into a large basin decorated with beautiful blooms, a symbol of letting their wishes float up to the heavens. Amina watched as each person walked forward, retrieving stones and speaking their hopes aloud, a chorus of dreams echoing through the air. I wish for abundance, one villager said as she tossed her stone. For rain and good health. I wish for laughter and joy, shouted another, eliciting chuckles from the crowd. Each wish was a thread, weaving together the shared aspirations of a community that had found strength in unity. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, a collective anticipation hung in the air. The villagers gathered to dance, the rhythms of drums guiding their movements, feet pounding the earth as the music enveloped them like a warm embrace. Amina smiled as she looked around. Her heart sang in time with the vibrant melodies, pirates' shimmies and hops twirling together. This celebration symbolized their rebirth. The joy in every step reflected the journey they had trodden together. As night fell, lanterns hung from the branches of trees, illuminating the square with a soft warmth. The air buzzed with excitement as Mama Zuri gathered the villagers for a moment of reflection. Tonight, we celebrate our resilience, she announced, her voice steady and filled with emotion. Tonight, we honor our wishes and the bonds we have formed. Amina felt the swell of love and gratitude blossom in her chest. She gazed around at the faces, illuminated by the golden glow of the lanterns, each expressing a rich tapestry of gratitude for the collaborative effort that had brought them here. We are here for one another. Let us always strive to nurture our community, Mama Zuri continued. And let your wishes be seeds, planted into the fertile soil of faiths. Nods rose from the villagers in agreement. The heartwarming sentiment resonated deeply within them as they reflected on their journey, the fears, the challenges, and the love that had emerged victorious. As the night deepened, it was time for the most anticipated moment, the releasing of the wishes. Amina stepped forward, holding a stone she had painted with a swirling sun and a blooming flower. I wish for us to grow, she announced, her voice soaring above the crowd. For our hearts and spirits to flourish no matter what life throws our way. Together, villagers tossed their stones into the basin, a crescendo of hopes rising into the night. A vibrant sun set against the backdrop of stars marked the moment as wishes soared, each stone shimmering like dreams set free. Amina turned to Juma, his eyes sparkling in the lantern light. This is just the beginning, she said with conviction. We have opened our hearts to what lies ahead. Juma smiled back, his heart uplifted. They had transformed their space into a sanctuary of hope through community and creativity. The storm had threatened to break them, but instead, it served as a catalyst for their bonding, an invitation to dream. As the festivities danced on, laughter echoed through the village, melding with the hum of music, creating an atmosphere steeped in celebration. That night, woven together into the tapestry of the village, they forged promises of resilience and growth, and as they looked toward the horizon, a brilliant and joyous new beginning shimmered before them. The Festival of Wishes would mark a fresh chapter, and they were more than ready to embrace it, hand in hand, heart by heart. A new recipe for life. As dawn broke over the village the morning after the Festival of Wishes, Amina awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The laughter and energy of the previous night still echoed in her mind, each cheer a reminder of the resilience they had collectively embraced. The festival had not just been a celebration of their survival, but a rekindling of their hopes and dreams. Today, Amina resolved to turn those dreams into a tangible reality. Stepping outside, the sun bathed the village in a warm glow. The air was fragrant, filled with the scents of fresh earth and blossoming flowers. Amina walked through the garden, now a patchwork of vibrant colors, bustling with bees and butterflies, a testament to their hard work. The storm had ravaged parts of it, yet from the wreckage, life had emerged anew, a reflection of their journey through challenges. Gathering her thoughts, Amina envisioned the next step for their community. With the foundation built, it was time to craft a plan that would weave their aspirations into a cohesive vision. A blueprint for building a sustainable future that tied together their love for the land with the bonds they had strengthened. Over breakfast, Amina shared her ideas with Juma, who, despite the early hour, was ready to embrace the day. "We need a plan for how to get the most out of what we have," she explained, her hands animated as she spoke. "If we garden sustainably, we can ensure that there's enough for ourselves and still give back to the earth." "I love that concept," Juma replied, excitement lighting up his features. "We could create a community co-op where everyone contributes what they can, and in return, we learn from one another. A place where recipes are exchanged just as freely as the produce." With spirits soaring, they set out to invite the villagers to a gathering in the square, emphasizing the importance of creating a sustainable approach to gardening and cooking. Amina believed that educating others could set into motion a renewed sense of purpose among her friends and neighbors. As people gathered, Amina stood at the center of the square, her heart racing with anticipation. "Thank you for coming today. We've grown so much stronger as a community, and now it's time for us to move from surviving to thriving," she began, her voice steady and filled with passion. "We can create a cooperative way of living, sharing not just our crops but our knowledge, what each of us has learned through hardship and celebration. Let's become a community that supports one another in every aspect of life, just as we did during the rebuildings." Nida stood at the edge of the crowd, her arms crossed, skepticism lingering in her eyes. "But how will this work, Amina? What about the struggles we faced? Will we just forget those and start anew?" "Not at all," Amina replied, determination etched on her face. "We will use those experiences to inform our choices. Every lesson we learned can become a part of our new recipe for life. Let's embrace our past while harmonizing it with our hopes for the future." As murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, Mama Zuri stepped forward, her presence commanding respect. "The young ones speak truth. Our challenges have shaped us in ways we can't disregard. Let us combine our skills to ensure that the heart of our community beats strongly," she continued, her voice carrying the weight of wisdom. With renewed energy igniting the atmosphere, they proposed solutions, discussions bubbling to life about crop rotations, shared gardens, and classes for preserving the harvest. The concept of a community cookbook emerged, each villager contributing their favorite recipes, twinkling with family tales of resilience, celebration, and creativity passed down through generations. Excitement intensified as Amina led workshops that demonstrated how to prepare the dishes they would populate their cookbook with, recipes crafted from their unconventional ingredient that encompassed their struggles, victories, and most cherished memories. Juma became Amina's enthusiastic partner in the endeavor, taking the lead on lessons about sustainable gardening practices, connecting each part of their lessons to larger themes of nourishment, renewal, and community. Together, they unearthed the potential in every effort, every lesson, and every flavor. As laughter filled the square, villagers began to assemble their contributions for the community cookbook. Each recipe told a story, and with each story shared, bonds deepened. The children eagerly joined in, scribbling their favorites down and creating illustrations that brought the pages to life. That evening, Juma and Amina cooked together, preparing dishes from the gathered contributions. The kitchen overflowed with the energy of their combined creativity as spicy aromas blended harmoniously, igniting memories of earlier struggles, yet now tinged with hope. "I never knew cooking could feel like this," Juma remarked as they slid the finished dishes onto the table. "It's as if we're creating more than just food. We're writing our history, crafting something wholly unique." Amina nodded, a heartfelt smile lighting up her face. "Exactly. Every dish we prepare today carries the essence of our journey. We're not just feeding our bodies, we're cultivating our story, a recipe for lives." That night, as they shared their combined culinary creations with the villagers, the sense of belonging enveloped them like a warm embrace. The kitchen filled with laughter, celebration, and remembrance as their newfound recipes became unifying symbols of their resilience and camaraderie. With each bite, they savored the rich tapestry of flavors while celebrating the bonds that had emerged from hardship. Amina felt fulfilled as she looked around at her fellow villagers, hearts and bellies full, knowing their journey had transformed into a shared purpose that stretched beyond mere survival. Together, they were crafting a new recipe for life, one sprinkled with hope, stirred with love, and seasoned with the unwavering spirit of community, a testament to their collective strength and resilience. This was their future, a colorful feast nourished not just by food but by love, laughter, and the bonds woven together as they danced joyfully into the new chapter that awaited them. The legacy we weave. The morning sun cast a gentle glow over the village as Amina stood at the edge of the garden, surveying the fruits of their labor. Vibrant greens blossomed where barren land had once prevailed, and every bloom seemed to carry whispers of resilience and hope. The community had transformed not only the earth but also the spirit of their bonds, uniting them in a way that was palpable. The community cookbook had become a cherished tapestry of stories and recipes woven together with the threads of experience. Families gathered regularly now for cooking and storytelling sessions, each gathering deepening their connections. Laughter filled the air as children darted between tables, eager to help and to learn. Amina pieced together her thoughts for the day in a reflective mood. Today marked a milestone, the first official legacy day. They had chosen this day to celebrate everything they had accomplished since the storm, embracing the new traditions that had emerged. It would be a day of gratitude, remembrance, and dreams for their future. Juma approached her with a basket filled with colorful vegetables from the garden. "Ready for the day?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Absolutely. Let's set up everything for the ceremony at the square." Amina replied, her spirit buoyant. She felt a surge of anticipation as they prepared to honor their journey. As the villagers began to gather in the square, familiar faces filled the space, each one echoing the warmth of community. Mama Zuri stood at the center, her smile radiating wisdom and love, ready to lead the festivities. "Welcome everyone," she called, her voice resonating through the crowd. "Today, we gather to celebrate our lives, the victories we have shared, and the legacy we will weave together for generations to come." Amina and Juma moved among the villagers, helping them set up stations, each one showcasing a unique aspect of their journey. One station displayed photographs capturing moments from their rebuilding efforts, images of laughter, resilience, and connection that had defined their transformation. As the sun climbed higher, Amina took to the platform to share her thoughts. "Today is not simply about celebrating our achievements, it is about recognizing the strength we've fostered together. We weave our legacy from the stories we share, traditions we create, and hope we instill in the hearts of the next generation." Emphasizing the importance of nurturing what they had built, Amina glanced at the children playing nearby. "The legacy we leave behind will be rooted in the love, laughter, and lessons of these moments." The crowd nodded, their spirits soaring. Mama Zuri stepped forward, guiding them through a series of activities that honored their shared narrative. They joined hands, forming a circle that encapsulated the essence of unity, the promise to safeguard their bonds and pass down their stories. Several villagers took turns sharing stories about the contributions they had made since the storm, tales infused with gratitude and love. Nida shared a heartfelt memory about how a simple recipe brought her family closer during trying times. Tears glistened in her eyes, while laughter echoed through the square, weaving a warm blanket of shared experience. As the sun began to set, Juma prepared to showcase the dishes they had collectively created over the past several months. "Taste and remember," he said, presenting a banquet of traditional dishes, highlighting not only their cooking skills but also their healing journey. Each flavor tells a story. Every recipe embodies lessons that will carry through generations. Villagers lined up to take part in a communal feast, savoring the flavors that encapsulated the spirit of their community. As Amina walked among them, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude. They were not only dining together, they were celebrating the strong foundation they had built. Finally, as night fell and the lanterns sparkled like stars overhead, Amina gathered everyone once more. "As we finish our day of celebration, let's remember that our legacy is a living thing. It thrives through stories shared, young hearts nurtured, and dreams ignited. Let us vow to pass this legacy on to our children and theirs." The villagers cheered, determined smiles lighting their faces, the spirit of unity brighter than ever before. In that moment of collective promise, Amina felt their new chapter firmly take root. The garden had become a living testament to their journey, and the community had woven together a rich tapestry of life, love, and laughter. A legacy crafted from the ashes of struggle, blooming brighter each day. As the night continued, hearts filled with joy, the villagers danced under the stars, their laughter ringing out into eternity, echoing the vibrant love that had formed the heart and soul of their community. Together, they created a legacy woven from resilience, a beautiful reminder that, in unity, they could transcend any storm, and with each passing generation, their legacy would deepen, flourish, and brighten the paths ahead.